technology in general can really complement the expertise and just the personal touch that the human is able to provide. I think it's very easy to jump to the conclusion that, oh, there's going to be this massive disruption. But I think, for those that are truly dedicated and have that unique expertise and insight, AI is only going to be a force multiplier, so to speak, right? It's going to complement the expertise that you already have, and it'll enable you to do a lot more. So, we're definitely supportive of that. It's like we don't see the human element going away.
Yeah.
This is really about driving efficiency, driving a better customer experience.
Welcome to Pioneers, the show where we explore the intersection between humanity and AI. I'm your host, Ankur Patel. Over the last 10 years, I've built 3 AI startups, written 2 books about the subject, and I run a weekly AI newsletter. I also regularly teach and speak about the topic at conferences. This technology has grown faster than I think any of us could have imagined, and it's making us ask really important questions, such as how ethical is AI? What will this technology look like in a few years, let alone a few months? And most importantly, does it have the power to truly change the world? And what does it mean for you? On this show, I'll be interviewing the founders, operators, and pioneers that are introducing AI into their companies and industries. We'll be asking them the really heavy-hitting questions that make them dig deep into the core of what we do. And without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to Pioneers, the podcast where we explore how real companies are using AI to reshape industries from the inside out. Today, we're zooming in on insurance for small businesses, a space filled with complexity, scale, and a massive opportunity for digital transformation. I'm joined by Henry Tam, Head of Business Development at Next Insurance, a company that's making waves by bringing AI and automation into underwriting, claims, and customer experience, all while staying laser focused on the needs for small businesses. Henry, welcome to Pioneers. It's really exciting to have you here.
Thanks, Ankur. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me.
So could you, for the benefit of our audience, maybe talk a little bit about Next and where you are in the market today?
Will do. So I am the head of business development at Next Insurance. Next is a leading digital small commercial insurance carrier in the US. We service primarily Main Street America type businesses. So think your general contractors, your restaurant owners, auto mechanics, professional services like accountants or real estate agents, retail store owners. So anything you might find brick and mortar or digital on Main Street America, we will underwrite. And we also have appetite for new in business. And so this is a segment that has traditionally been underserved by the legacy carriers, primarily because they were small. They didn't represent that much in potential, but they were also highly risky because they were new in business.
Yep.
And so we aim to deploy technology to make the end-to-end process automated and digital self-service from both the sales and the servicing perspective, to effectively make it as easy as an e-commerce transaction. So if you go to nextinsurance.com, you can basically take yourself through, as a business owner, an end-to-end journey, and we will recommend for you the right set of policies for you as a business. We grew up direct to consumer on our own homegrown tech platform.
Yeah.
And it's not just on the sales side, but also on the post-transaction servicing side. So you as the business owner can make changes to your policy, file a claim, get additional coverages.
Yeah, I think, Henry, what you speak to makes a lot of sense, which is these mainstream businesses are underserved by traditional carriers. In fact, traditional carriers in some ways don't have the appropriate automation built into how they serve Main Street businesses for that segment to be viable, right? And I think what you've done is you've built something that's natively digital first. And I think that helps you serve a segment that normally doesn't get served well. So I suppose from the outside, it seems like AI is likely baked into everything, or you have plans to bake more of AI into everything. Has that always been the vision from the very beginning?
That's right. So one of our core values is dare to simplify. And we've basically applied that ethos to the end-to-end insurance journey. So Next is differentiated in that we're the insurance carrier. So we take on risk on
Mm-hmm.
all of our policies. And we're also the tech platform. So we don't work with a lot of other policy administration systems or third-party service providers that a lot of other carriers might rely on. We've built most of our technology in-house. And so that enables us to innovate and to iterate on both the insurance product as well as the user experience that the customer or the agent or the partner might use to engage with our solution.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we went down that path, because we didn't start out that way. We started as more of your traditional insurtech, more of a connective layer, a digital wrapper on other carrier products. We started out that way, but then we invested in building out our own carrier to effectively deliver a much better customer experience for our customers. And so from an AI perspective, I think technology just at large has been very critical to enabling that journey. I would say there's been a lot more on the machine learning side as far as automatically extracting critical data insights about our customers as they go through our underwriting funnel to
Mm-hmm.
be able to streamline that process. But now with generative AI, I think it opens up a lot more opportunities. Now, as a carrier, we're highly regulated, and so there's going to be considerations there as far as how much we can lean into that. But obviously, it's something that we're deeply exploring and very excited about.
Well, maybe let's start with the beginning of the journey. I think you alluded to this earlier, but the customer journey, what are some of the most impactful ways you're using machine learning and perhaps more of AI now to improve the experience from the very beginning as a potential policyholder comes to Next and has certain scenarios that they need to basically underwrite? Well, they need policies underwritten, right, to cover that risk. What does that journey look like today?
So oftentimes we have a very extensive performance marketing arm.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's Google search or YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, if you start searching for insurance, you will likely engage with our advertising. And the whole point is to drop that business owner onto our site so that they can go through our experience to get the insurance coverages that they need. And as they go through that process, we are using AI to streamline the underwriting process.
Mm-hmm.
And from a decisioning standpoint, our process is entirely algorithmic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an instant underwriting decision that the customer experiences. This is in contrast, I think, to other carriers who might still rely on things like a refer to underwriter or supplemental applications where you don't get that instant decision. For us, it's either we give you a bindable quote and we accept the risk, or we decline you. Regardless, you get that instant decision.
Yeah.
And so for customers love that. But even agents love that as well, because they don't have to spend too much time now going through our process. Our appetite is very broad, and you will, in most cases, get a bindable quote and be able to service your client. But if we can't, we just tell you, and they can move on and find an alternative solution.
Yeah.
So that time efficiency that is enabled by AI has been quite powerful in fueling our growth.
I love that vision. It's a vision that we share as well, which is that from the customer experience perspective, it should be a lot quicker, particularly for more standard types of policies, for you to basically explain the business you're in, the size of the business, the nature of the business, all of that, and have basically more algorithmic approaches, as you said, to go in and help figure out what the risk appetite is of a given carrier like yourself, and then be able to get a bindable quote. And I think that experience is mostly lacking, right? You're basically having to wait a considerable amount of time to understand
what the different quotes are and then decide among them. So I think from an end user perspective, you want that to be more seamless, faster, just in general. So I'm curious, like, what were some of the things that you had to get right for that experience to be where it is today? So, when you first started Next, was this like something that was relatively straightforward to stand up? Did you have to kind of work your way there? I'm just curious what that early on journey looked like.
So there's certainly a lot of iteration. I would say that the starting point is always from the position of the customer. What is the pain point that they are looking to solve? And the thing about business insurance is that these are mandated coverages. So if you want to hire an employee, or if you hire an employee, you're going to need workers' compensation insurance.
Yeah.
If you want to, as a contractor, to engage with a prospective client, that client is going to want to make sure that they're a named insured on your policy, and they want to make sure that your limits and coverages are adequate. If you lease a property, you're going to need to have the right insurance as well. And if you own a property, you're going to want to make sure that your property is covered. So a lot of the learnings has been around identifying the right marketing moments. We call them magic moments, where a customer encounters this brick wall as far as moving ahead in their business. And we basically apply technology to remove that wall for them, and so they can get on with their day. So one scenario, very common, and when I describe it, you're going to think, well, it's an obvious use case, is imagine you're a plumber or an electrician, and you show up to your job site, and whoever's in charge of the job site asks to check your certificate of insurance to make sure that the property owner or the person, the entity in charge, whatever requirements they had established, that you satisfy those requirements. And suppose you're missing the right coverage. You have $500,000 of coverage rather than $1 million. And historically, you'd have to call up your agent. It might take a few days to get them on the line, update it. You would have to get a new certificate of insurance with this client as a named insured. And the net effect of it is that you're not working that day because they can't let you onto the job site. With Next, you pull up our mobile app.
Yeah.
You make the changes on your app. If you have to pay some extra fees, extra premium, you pay it. You update the certificate of insurance for the client. You show them the updated COI, and you get on with your day. You work that day. Again, it's not super sophisticated when you think about it, but that is a use case that I think tens, if not hundreds of thousands of our customers have encountered. And when you make it easy, when you present a very simple solution at that point of need, it's a quite compelling, quite powerful experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, Henry, that's spot on. I mean, I personally have had to do like the COIs for moves that I've made, or getting contractors to do changes to the units that I live in and such. And so even in a simple example like that, it's just really hard to get the COIs in time to keep things moving. And it's pretty frustrating, especially because like these are standard things that, exist in commercial settings, and you have to go and spend days trying to get the necessary paperwork in place and address any gaps in coverage and such. And it should be a lot quicker. So, I think all that makes sense. I think the digital first experience really makes the user experience pretty remarkable. But let's talk about sort of how that happens behind the scenes. So underwriting, obviously, with small businesses, as you mentioned, you have less history. It's more risky. It's harder to get enough data points to be able to understand what's riskier versus not. So I'm curious, how do you leverage maybe data that is available through third parties or the public web to help enrich that opportunity that you ultimately need to underwrite without having to go and ask the prospective policyholder endless amounts of questions to understand the nature of what they do and how to go and underwrite that risk that they have?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's one that we've invested quite heavily in from a data science and machine learning perspective. And, a lot of the folks that work at Next don't come from insurance. I don't come from insurance. This is my first insurance job. Our chief product officer comes from Yelp. There's a lot of product folks that come from similar tech backgrounds. And frankly, there's a lot of rich data available about businesses on the internet, a digital footprint that we are very proactive in mining to, again, streamline the process, remove friction from the process. We also have many third-party data sources that we are constantly evaluating and updating to help provide those underwriting insights. We were recently acquired by Munich Re Insurance, or Munich Re, one of the largest insurance companies in the world. And they also have lots of data sources that we rely on as well. And then we do a lot of work with embedded partners. So these are small business tech platforms like an Intuit QuickBooks or a Gusto or a LegalZoom or a Toast for restaurants, where they also have proprietary insights on their customers that we're able to leverage to varying degrees to, again, remove friction from the underwriting process, improve the confidence in terms of our own underwriting, and with the intent to to provide a better experience for our mutual customers.
I think ultimately it is a data game, which is the more data you have, the more conviction you could get to around whether you should provide a quote or decline coverage. And I think that's the nature of the game, right? It's ultimately about like your risk appetite, how do you go and adjust it. Maybe let's talk a little bit about how quickly your models adjust to real-time data around policies you've underwritten. Maybe you got the risk wrong. Maybe you were a little bit too aggressive in underwriting policies. How quick of a cycle is that from underwriting policies and then getting information from the claims that are coming through, maybe with some lag, of course, given just the nature of this, and then being able to go and inform how the underwriting team or underwriting software should work. So maybe you're able to throttle some of the risk either to be more aggressive or less aggressive, depending on what you're seeing on the claim side.
So our underwriting has definitely gone through an evolution. So we've been around for 9 years, and we've kind of gone through quite a tumultuous set of conditions from a market perspective, where there was a time when we were strongly encouraged to grow almost at any cost, where you really wanted to lean into growth. And then I would say for the past several years, it's been much more of a focus on driving profitable growth. And we did have to go through a learning curve, if I'm being totally transparent. But I would say that we took a lot of action in advance of the rest of the industry, both from our peer set from an insurtech perspective, as well as the broader insurance industry, small commercial insurance industry at large, where we had to take our medicine as far as making sure that our underwriting was sound. But we made those changes, and now I would say that more recently we've been able to take a more expansive appetite posture versus other carriers, which for the most part have been tightening their appetite. And that, frankly, has opened up a lot of opportunity for us to expand. We have had the benefit of having very strong and experienced partners, particularly from a reinsurance side, who are also our investors.
Yep.
And so Munich Re has been a longtime partner and investor. We had also extensive relationships with other folks like an Allstate, Allianz, Mitsui Sumitomo. We had a panel of dozens of reinsurance partners. And so, early on, I would say, yeah, we were a bit, we had the attitude of a disruptive startup.
Yeah.
But over time, we've definitely matured, again, with the help and guidance from our partners. And I think the fact that Munich Re acquired like the rest of Next that they didn't own is a testament to the fact that, yes, our underwriting is such that they are willing to own us 100%. And I think those lessons will carry forward, because if you're too aggressive as a carrier,
Yeah.
growth is good, but profitable growth is better, right? So we are very careful about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you have to be cognizant of getting that trade-off right. And I think that's also kind of maybe a part of the backdrop that you see with startups in general, right? There was a moment in time where it was growth at any cost, and then it became a little bit different, which was more sustainable growth, right? Profitable growth, things like
Correct.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about claims. And I suppose this is like a moment of truth in insurance, which is, claims is something that is just very hard to do because it requires a lot of people to handle, particularly as you might see like a more of a deluge of claims volume come through because the end users have AI to help file claims maybe more quickly. And so you might see a little bit more influx there. So I'm curious, like on the claims side, are you applying AI? What gets you to a point where maybe you could apply AI if you're not? I'm just curious what the temperature in the room is today.
Yeah. So to be transparent, from a claims perspective, this is not my domain of expertise, but I do spend a fair amount of time understanding the process. And what I would say is that claims is a very complicated process. There's a lot of different steps there. There's a lot of areas where AI will have application. So I think the long-term vision would be AI simply takes care of everything and the claim is paid out. But along the way, there's going to be a lot of intermediate steps.
Yeah.
Ranging from just the triage of a claim filing to the validation of documents or other evidence that might be submitted in support of a claim, to just like streamlining the workflows as it goes through the whole claims adjustment process. Again, I'm only superficially, like on the periphery, involved because it is of interest and it is of relevance to some of our, to our partners. But obviously there's going to be a lot of opportunity because insurance, at the end of the day, it is ripe for modernization through the use of AI because there's just so much legacy process, so much human process, so much just documentation that is currently very inefficient. I mean, there's just a lot more room for improvement in this whole area. And yes, we are exploring all of those areas. It's just when it becomes holistically unified in a kind of that long-term vision, I think that's still to be determined.
Yeah, I think the other big value in claims processing is that no single claims adjuster has context on 10,000 claims in their head, right? Like they have a lot of experience and expertise, but they can't hold 10,000 claims and learnings from those claims in their head. And so I think AI in the best possible world is basically providing a level of insight that no claims adjuster, no matter how great they are, could have, because they could, the AI portion is able to say, this claim should be dealt in this way because of all these precedent cases that we've seen. And this is informed by appeals to previous claims, including maybe overrulings that regulators have done on this particular type of claim, whatever it might be. And so it ends up being informed by the portfolio of claims, including the aftermath in terms of appeals or litigation or regulators getting involved. And I think there's so much insight that AI could bring. You could almost think of it as like, how there's data enrichment to inform underwriting opportunities. AI in this case is learning on a large volume of claims that have come through the organization and then bringing that insight on the present submission, the claim submission, to the desk of the claims adjuster when they need it most, right? And so there's still human agency first and foremost, but it's assisted in a meaningful way in the diligence and decision-making process, even beyond just the triage as part of the claims automation piece.
I'd agree. I mean, I think it's easy to get caught up in sort of the potential for AI, but the end goal isn't to remove the human element out of the process. I think what's most interesting and attractive is how AI can really complement, and frankly, technology in general can really complement the expertise and just the personal touch that the human is able to provide. I think it's very easy to jump to the conclusion that, oh, there's going to be this massive disruption. But I think, for those that are truly dedicated and have that unique expertise and insight, AI is only going to be a force multiplier so to speak, right? It's going to complement the expertise that you already have, and it'll enable you to do a lot more. So, we're definitely supportive of that. It's like we don't see the human element going away.
Yeah.
This is really about driving efficiency, driving a better customer experience.
Next serves a wide range of small business owners, often across multiple states and locations. What does it take to serve all of those segments efficiently, just given that there are state by state regulations for a lot of these policies?
That's right. So there is quite a bit of complexity. The United States in particular has a lot of complexity because you effectively have 50 or 51 independent jurisdictions when it comes to insurance.
Mhm.
We have that expertise in house. So we have a team. The acronym is FAIR, FAIR, for filings, actuarial, implementation, and statutory reporting.
Uh-huh.
And it is quite a massive effort to stay on top of all these different filings. Certain states are much more responsive than others. And we service the entire country. So, we definitely have invested quite heavily in this muscle. And we think that differentiates us from, some of the more, I guess, earlier stage startups who might not have this muscle.
And what are some ways that the digital infrastructure you've built, and how does that really allow you to stay lean without hiring many, many bodies that operate in those various states that you operate in?
Right. So our digital infrastructure, the design, the customer experience that we're looking to solve for is really in simplicity and in digital self-service. And so by definition, it is very scalable because the customer is able to do their own servicing. Now, agent assistance, human touch is always available. You can always call if you have any questions. But we found that the digital experience, if you can just take care of it yourself very quickly on your own, that is usually the preferred experience.
Yeah.
And so that's been our design focus from the very beginning. We definitely intend to keep doing that. And really it's about, designing for the right use cases, because you can imagine different customer segments, different complexities as far as you mature as a business might require certain types of human touch. And yeah, we want to be there to provide that confidence for our customers. But we definitely are always looking at it from how can we make this digital self-service?
Yeah. One other thing I really love about Next is how it approaches product development. How are you using generative AI as well as automated insights to inform what ultimately gets built?
Yeah, so AI has broad applicability across the entire company, not simply in product development. And so I'm not a, technical product developer. I mean, I was an engineer by training, but I'm firmly on the business side, squarely on the business side.
Uh-huh.
And we certainly do a lot to drive more efficiencies in our end-to-end workflows by various teams. I could say personally, I have, and this is more from a business development perspective, I have found a lot of value just this year in leveraging various AI tools more as a strategic thought partner to generate business ideas, analyze data, conduct market research that I didn't really see in past years. So I would always deliberately try out AI in various use cases, but I think it wasn't until like Gemini, like deep research came out earlier this year,
Sure.
where I felt that, this is kind of operating at a level of an MBA intern, where if I need to do background research on a prospect or a partner based on like public filings or transcripts, and then just kind of assess, hey, what is the application to small business insurance and embedded technology? I can feed that in, and I would get a very good starting point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not meant to be. I still have to check the work for hallucinations. But in a way, it's not that different from guiding an MBA intern, from my perspective, on a similar project.
Right.
Or even doing research in areas that I didn't think would be possible. So for example, in insurance, again, highly regulated, there are state-specific insurance codes. it takes quite a bit of work to go through all of that if we're
Yeah.
trying to launch something innovative to make sure that it is compliant. And, our legal team is very, very strapped for resources. There's a lot going on. But if I could, and I have fed that prompt into conduct this research into various insurance codes,
Yeah.
cite the specific section that that is relevant for this area that I'm looking at, and then summarize it in a table. That's a great starting point. And I can give that to my legal team and say, hey, I mean, it's probably not right, but I did some spot checking, and you know what? A lot of this is along the right lines. I can extract out the relevant code so you don't have to do as much digging as you might have before, right? So there's these different types of applications that I found to be quite relevant, and it certainly saves me a lot of time. I can fire up a lot of different queries in the morning. It might do some research, but it can cite things now, so I can go and follow up. So I've personally found quite a bit of value just this year, and now it's like I actually look forward to it, whereas before I felt like I had to force myself to try it.
Yeah, it's remarkable how having your hands on keyboard and seeing this firsthand allows you to kind of be part of the kind of inflection points that AI is experiencing. And, I mean, you start understanding the limits of AI, but you also start seeing the potential for it. And over time, I think what you do is you develop a healthy regard for what AI is good at and not good at, and you allow yourself to start trusting some of this, right? Because the fact is, like, AI is moving very quickly. There are things that it can't do. There are also remarkable things that it can do, and being able to then leverage it well in the areas that it could be helpful at today, while still being like aware of what's coming down the pipe as it's coming down, and incorporating that in the way that you work is deeply valuable. And I think I wish more people took the approach that you did, which is skepticism, healthy amount of skepticism to start, but you start understanding where it could be helpful and you start incorporating that. And I think you find ways where it does add value, and more remarkable value maybe than you initially thought. And 6 months from now or 12 months from now, AI will get better, and so they'll be able to do more things beyond what you've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So where do you think all of this is going? Because I mean, one of the maybe the promises of AI is that we might get more hyper personalized underwriting, and therefore more hyper personalized policies. So there might be better segmentation of how you go and price risk. Maybe there's more dynamic coverage, so you get changes in coverage in between policy periods, depending on how the business is growing and scaling and such. Maybe there's smarter bundling, so you don't have to price the policies independently, but you're able to take a more holistic picture of a given opportunity with a given customer, and then find savings in some of the risk that you normally would underwrite. Again, trying to find advantages in terms of how appropriately aggressive you could be based on a lot of good data that you have that perhaps the other carriers aren't as privy to or aren't as well adapted to go and process. And again, it gives you more of a competitive advantage. I'm curious what you're seeing or what you imagine seeing coming down the pipe here.
That is correct. I would say we would be very aligned with that vision. Hyper personalized policies with dynamic coverage. We certainly see a future where coverage adapts as your business evolves. And we think Next is uniquely positioned to do that because we're the carrier and we're the tech platform. So we can do quite a bit of innovation on both those dimensions. And frankly, we already do some of that today. Yeah. So like one example, and this is the channel that I lead, a big part of it is the connection between payroll providers and workers' compensation insurance, where when you get payroll, you're going to need workers' compensation insurance. And then our workers' compensation is plugged in to the payroll data, where your coverage and your premiums will evolve as your payroll changes, as you add or remove employees, as their salaries change. And so that is that dynamic coverage, and it helps from an audit perspective as well. So there's a lot of benefits that we are already very well aware of, and we see broad application to extend that to our other lines of business.
And I think that makes a tremendous amount of sense to be able to do that. I suppose maybe switching gears a little bit, being part of Munich Re, what's changed for your organization or what continues to remain the same? Because I imagine part of what you could be helpful with is injecting some of the great ways that you're operating the business, including the use of software and machine learning and now AI, to inject some of that energy back to a much larger and a more storied organization that probably has even more like legacy issues to deal with than an average carrier.
That's right. So we're very excited about our future with Munich Re. I think Munich Re is excited as well. From a day-to-day perspective, for Next, nothing really changes. We continue to execute upon our strategy to, be the leading small commercial carrier in the U.S. And you're right. There's a lot of cross-pollination, a lot of learnings that down the line we think we'll be able to extend to the rest of the Munich Re, the Ergo portfolio. Where Munich Re, I think, really helps us is that in addition now to the fact that we're a carrier and we're a tech platform, we now have tremendous scale. I mean, we were kind of on that path to begin with, but this really adds a lot of fuel to the fire, where the balance sheet that Munich Re has, the other capabilities that, especially on the E&S side of insurance, to offer coverages that we might not be able to offer ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we have to earn it, right? So it's not that we can just launch products without sound underwriting, but the fact that we have this capacity that is now available and we have a track record, I think gives both parties quite a lot of confidence in terms of the growth potential ahead of us. So we're certainly very excited, and there's a long runway for insurance and for technology, and also from a global scale as well.
You're at the center of Next's partnerships and growth. What's one lesson you've learned about applying AI in a way that actually sticks?
As far as applying AI in a way that actually sticks, I would say that it's easy to get distracted by the technology, but at the end of the day, it is about the customer. That's the starting point. The tech is really there to help the customer experience. And in many ways, it's best when the customer isn't even aware that it's there. So we're here to solve pain points. And I think, a lot of our partners are also interested in AI application. Frankly, they recognize the complexity and challenges to deliver an insurance experience for their own customers.
Yep.
But they recognize it, but then they know that it's going to require a lot of investment. It's really hard to do. It's very capital intensive.
Yeah.
And so we want to be that ideal partner for our partners and grow with them, and really to leverage their differentiators to offer unique insurance solutions for our mutual customers. And so AI is going to be a very critical enabler of that. And it all comes back to the customer experience for us. And if we do that, then we're going to have very happy and, long lasting relationships with our customers and partners.
Yeah, that's very well said. Well, Henry, thank you for joining us. You've painted a very clear picture of what modern insurance could look like and how AI is enabling insurers to move faster and ultimately, as you mentioned, serve customers better. And I think that's more of what the rest of the industry at large needs. And I think you've set a really good example of how it should be done. So really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the time today.